All right. So today is day 301, right? 皆さんお帰りなさい。今日は300、301日目です。Right? Day 301. And where were we? We're transitioning from our conversation about Wanikani and comparing Duolingo, right? So let me show you what I mean. So you get, all of this, right? When you start off, it kind of looked like they were trying to put in some new things, but it's like 3, 5, and then usually it averaged around 2 at most kanji, 2 to 3 kanji, right? You're like, oh yeah, and then they keep recycling as much as possible the kanji to form some base. And usually most of the majority of the kanji are counter base kanji, and frequency, time frequency, right? Time frequency and whatnot. So that's fine. Those are the things that are most frequently going to show up, right? They are replacing like sentence construction stuff. That's fine. So everything else is reused and they stack on top of each other as much as possible. And then what you notice with their kana is that they try to branch out, and then when you hit section 3, you notice that there's a new format, right? The answer and response format and whatnot. At some point, all of that's going to fall back to simple sentences again. No answer response, only matching, only flashcards, and they're going to start at section 37 right here. So the moment you hit about 36, 37, they're going to average about 10 plus for each unit. So average about 10 new kanji each unit with an average of 5 to 6 reused kanji. And you're going to have 1 unit to remember all of these things because they will not recur again except like sparingly when they do personalized practice. So then the volume looks like this. And it's going to be very simple sentences. So they like do really simple sentences. So they threw out, instead, they're like, so when you get to 37, it'll feel like unit 1. It'll go back to unit 1's structure. But then they're replacing all of your kana with kanji. So they're going to go and mirror all your units that you've already done. And so you're no longer focusing on acquiring new vocabulary. So new vocabulary will be like 2 or 3 max. So you've learned lots of words already, and you know their kana and their sound, but they're gonna not introduce a lot of vocabulary, and they're gonna replace all your existing vocabulary systematically with kanji. You'll get like 1 or 2 vocabulary every once in a while. And then every once in a while, so this is the volume, and then every once in a while when it gets reduced like this, like you get only 4 and 1, this is a grammar section. So there's a grammar point in these sections. Whenever they bring up like a new conjugation or grammar point, asking about food, asking is is a conjugation or a grammar related structure. So they reduce the amount of new kanji in those sections so that you can focus on the grammar aspect or figuring out. And then it goes back to something like this. This is your average volume in units. Like whenever it scales down, it means there's a grammar point. Like the most recent one, they're all about this average. It's about equal, if not greater, than the Wanikani volume, but in less time. So it can get a little. You won't have to worry about the kana read at all because you're relying on translation. So whenever these are introduced, you already know what they mean. So you don't have to learn. So in Duolingo, when they introduce a lot of kanji, you no longer need to translate because you should already know the words. So what happens is at this point, the only thing you're looking forward to is which kanji are you going to learn next? Because you already know what it sounds like. So when they say the kanji, the only thing you're responsible for now is to know the actual literal character. The rest you should already know. You heard it a billion times, hopefully. You heard it a lot of times, and you already know what the kana looks like. So you go straight into kanji without looking at the kana, right? And then you get to, like, recently, for example, we had a big unit on grammar. Like this unit, there's only one kanji listed and one reused kanji. There's actually like 3 on the side. This doesn't list, they don't list all the kanji in this section, but here it's only one grammar point, and the grammar point is how to use the potential form. So straight up, this whole unit is taking all your existing kanji and your predicate and using them in the potential form. So you're basically just conjugating the whole time in this unit. And in this unit is kind of smaller. There's one major grammar point here too. So that's kind of how they go about it. Otherwise, every unit, you're going to have an average of 10 new kanji and 10 reused kanji. And in the last 100 days, I've been trying to review, which is what I'm doing now for the prep, and I have lots and lots of holes because juggling the kanji keeps stacking on top of each other very, very quickly. It feels like the Chinese course, which the Chinese course, since they don't have kana, right? They have pinyin, and they don't give pinyin lessons. It's twice the volume of this. So their pace for Chinese, we can quickly switch over to Chinese just to compare. So Chinese does not have like pinyin practice. So their volume looks like this. This is the expected volume. So it's an average of 15 to 20 from the start. And then it's 15 to 20 repeated. And this is not all of them. Unfortunately, to my displeasure, which I have to actively record myself, 10 to 15% of the stuff isn't listed. And it's also true for the Japanese section. The Japanese section, a lot of the new predicates don't get listed until later. So all of these units after section 3, unit 37, you keep a mental track of all the predicates, specifically the predicates, and then some very complicated kanji they don't list on here. They might list them later. I have noticed that the first appearance of very specific kanji, they don't appear until later. And they're seldomly used, so it's kind of hard to remember them, but you kind of figure it out with all the listing of like the context around it. Oh yes, and I can see Wanikai being a bit weird for you. That's why I'm so interested to hear your opinion on Wanikani when you advance a bit with the baggage you already had at the start. Yeah, exactly. I'm looking forward to hearing what you guys think when you get to it's very specific. It's jarringly specific. So what I mean is, the moment you hit this section, it feels like, wait, what happened to everything? It's just the noun, it's like the verb and the object. The object and the verb. The object and the verb. And the only thing they did was, okay, so now we are trying to write every single sentence from now on as its natural read. So the sentences are very short. And what happens in the long run, in my opinion, is that the excitement here is you get to ask yourself, so which one are they going to replace now? Like, which one are they going to replace now? So it's always based on, like, they try to make it based on a theme. And over time, the last 100 days, when I say 550 kanji, right? 550 unique kanji, 400 over, like, approximately 450 of the kanji came from after this section. So within the last 100 days, over 400 of the kanji in 3 months. So if you want to equate something to the relative pace of Wanikani, you're responsible for at least 450, within 3 to 4 calendar months. So all that is a setup for that, I suppose. It might not be for everyone, obviously. What I have come to discover is that basically every day I get on Duolingo and I expect to write a kanji, look at the kanji, see how it's related to other kanji, and that's it. I don't usually concern myself about hearing it because I already know what it is, and I don't need to translate the meaning because once I hear it, I already know what it means. Largely because you spent like all that time up to this point with little to no kanji. Yeah. Well, I just learned some. Well, you just learned something that really reinforced my soul. Many thanks for you. Although it will still take me a while to get there, of course. Of course. Take your time, obviously. And I think using wanikani along the side, like together, was a great idea. I think it's two different approaches and they'll reinforce each other at some point, obviously. All right, thank you for, yeah, so you're absolutely good. So far, you're in section 3, unit 6. Ah, you're almost there. Okay, I can see that you're learning a bunch. Yeah, hopefully, I want to know what you guys end up thinking about the way they go about it. Because now you guys have like or at least Gecko, you have a reversed, other reversed pattern. Yeah, stay motivated, guys. Keep on going. I would love to hear what your thoughts are as they switch pace. How much would you say learning both kanji and hanzi in parallel helped you or somewhat hinder you, causing confusion in meaning or reading, for example? I absolutely love it. Now, hear me out here on the... You're gonna have to get into my mindset a little bit. The more nuance that it forced me to require to understand, the more likely that I'm more engaged with it. So ultimately, if both help and hinder are kind of synonymous to me. So if something is there to hinder me, then I end up working harder to understand it, right? So kind of like a puzzle game, the more nuanced the puzzle game is, the more likely I will be engaged in it. I like solving problems. So the reason why I mentioned this is what people may see as confusion, I see as an opportunity to learn nuances to distinguish and or understand them. So learning Chinese doubled down my studies. It didn't take up more time of my Japanese studies. It doubled down on my language learning. So I learned twice as much volume that I was planning on, as opposed to splitting my time between Japanese and Chinese. It ultimately ended up causing me to learn Japanese even more vigorously and learn Chinese even more vigorously. So with that said, it's very difficult nowadays for me, for better or for worse. I'll let you take care of it. I'll let you interpret it. When I read Japanese kanji, I'm practicing Chinese. So at every opportunity, when I look at kanji, which wanikani will definitely do, so you will see me probably say a lot of things about Chinese when we're looking at the kanji themselves, because those two overlap and it's fun seeing the relationship or the lack of relationship between them. And I personally think if Chinese is going to be part of your life, that's a big if. Since my family is Chinese, no matter what, Chinese is going to stay a part of my life. So naturally, I wanted to stagger it and have Chinese be a consequence of learning Japanese. So those two, I would not say that if you do not have the practical motivation to use Chinese, to use it as like some mechanical hack, right? Like some segue to boosting your Japanese. If you're specifically can only imagine yourself using Japanese, I don't think my perspective on how Chinese interacts with Japanese would be sufficient. I think it's fairly negligible because while I'm spending time learning Chinese at its interaction with Japanese, one that only focuses on Japanese can integrate other forms of things that will bolster their interest in Japanese. Chinese is a big part of my life because it is quite literally part of my family's lexicon. So when I say this fondly that I can't see kanji without thinking about Hanzi, right, is largely because you have to consider that I am Chinese by heritage. So those words, those pictograms, and I say this about kanji as well. While I was illiterate in Mandarin, the way I view kanji as a form of meaning and writing may be slightly different from individuals who are very used to Roman characters, right? So that is genuinely worth. Now, if you're already like 100 days to 150 days into Japanese, then it's negligible between us. So when I mention these things about Chinese, I'm usually referring to someone who has pretty much conditioned, normalized looking at these characters. It will feel like you're getting more meaning out of each character, in my opinion. So each of these characters will have the potential to mean even more than they already have. And to me, when anything has even more meaning, they tend to be there are more ways to remember what it means or to get to the meaning. Like, for example, 年, 钱, and what is this actually? What did they use for this? Do I have a character that uses this? I'm not sure about this. So this still means the same thing, by the way. 钱 and 卖, and 年 means, oh no, this is 午, sorry. 午, 午 as an afternoon, which means very similar to, I guess the closest thing I would use for this is probably like go. And 会, to go, probably not as transferable to, I guess kai. Kai is the read I would use in Japanese. Right, this is, I guess tai. What would this, I guess we could use like dai dokoro? No. Oh, dai works. Yes, dai. Yeah, dai dokoro. Much like that, I think. Oh, you love China a lot. You also started learning Chinese and you can understand a lot of Hanzi because you know them in kanji. Yeah, I think it's great. Also wanted to ask, in each unit, do you do each circle of every unit? Because I only do one circle, like 6 lessons, and then just jump to the next unit. Oh. I can quickly break down this. So you're asking for days. So okay. Day 1. Let's forget about stories for now. That's kind of a new thing. Day 2. Day 3. I spend 3 days per unit. And then 3 days per unit. At the end of day 1, I construct based on the kanji section. So construct looked like the thing that just showed up while I was doing that for Chinese. So I recall in the beginning. So I make a construct and then I recall in the beginning of day 2. So there's a recall from memory from day 2. And then for day 2, I hunt for missing missing things, which I add back to my construct. And then I recall again. And then I'll recall for day 3. And then day 3 is review. Okay, then we move on to the next unit, right? Then it will be the next unit. What happens is this will be day 1, but day 4 is the previous unit. I'll still recall. Recall that same unit. And then day 1, we're making a new construct. A new construct for this unit, right? So then when you get to, we're going to ignore this for now. Actually, this is actually part of day 2 for the time being because there's stories after a certain unit. But this will be day 2. And we're going to be recalling this and this because now it's day 5. Right? And then this will be day 2 of the recall. So we'll always be recalling 2 units by memory. And then here it'll be day 3, and this will be day 6. Day 6 recall, and this will be the hunt to add to the construct to recall for day 3. Then we drop this. So after 6 days of recall, we drop the previous unit. So unit 78 would rotate out, and then now we would have, or unit 77 would rotate out, the unit all the way before, and I'll always be juggling 2 units by memory, solely by memory, while this would be the learning part. Actually, to be precise, you learn here, you practice here, and you kind of spot check, not including this technically, then you review here. So what you're doing 1/3 of what I'm doing to get to the, so you're moving at 3 times faster than I am. Much like Wanikani, which Wanikani looks like it's doing a 5-day cycle to start, where you have to successfully do something 5 times on 5 separate days. I'm doing technically a 6-day recall cycle, a 6-day review cycle for Duolingo, and the Duolingo, I construct the relationship between them. So if I give you an example, at the end of day 1, you'll probably see at the end of day 1, I'm going to be doing something like this. So it would look like something like this. This would be my Chinese thing that I constructed for today's recall, because review process right now. So it would have arrows, shorthand, it would group them together, and then this would be my construct, which I'm going to recall in after this lesson when I do Chinese. So that's how I go about everything, right? So if the theme is day, I'm going to try to group together. So you'll probably see me at the end of day 1 doing something like this, grouping stuff together. Actually, let's just do an example. This is furo, right? Furo as in bath, right? Guess that maybe for 0 day. It could be, is there any list here? No, there's no list. So heya, right? Heya. This could be not neru. It could also be shin shitsu, right? And then what happens is I write it on the side. So I write it on the side. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to link them together. So I'm going to link them together, and then what you do is you recall those. Wanikani does this for you. So Wanikani makes it, they link and separate and cluster stuff together for you. So that's kind of one of the things that you can choose to do yourself. Duolingo doesn't. The closest thing Duolingo does is try to give you an idea of something, and I can honestly tell you that doesn't hold up most of the time, largely because if you have a section like this, right? If you have a section like this, half of it would mean something that you might be able to connect, and the other half would mean something. And then this stuff would be like a third of this would be related to this, a third of this would be related to this. So you kind of got to get creative and relating those things. That's how I continue to consume the thing. And for me, I think it's almost a sufficient exercise to keep on learning kanji at the pace that they're expecting you to learn, which again, at most for me is 6 days. It takes 6 days for me to even remember my construct. So I don't know how long Manikani is going to do this and how long review stacks, but coming up, since I've already passed 300 days, I usually review back in the day when the volume was low. I reviewed every 25 days. As in, I have a day where I have a blank canvas and I legitimately try to recall as much as I can for 25 days. And then eventually it became 50 days. And now I understand that it was way too much. Like way too much. So I'm trying to recall the last 100 days. And the I see lots of holes because 100 days mean I started making over 33 constructs. And these constructs were only started recently because there's a lot of kanji now. And to relate all these kanji, I needed to form a certain way to construct all the ideas together so that when I go to recall it for the 100 days, I'm technically only remembering 33 things as opposed to like 33 larger things versus 400-ish kanji characters, right? 400 seems a lot more than 33. So what I'm doing is I'm creating larger and larger units of recall. The problem now is since the volume increased so dramatically while trying to go from 50 to 100 days, I'm spending the next 6 to 7 days reviewing the last 100 days of stuff, trying to get back all the constructs, and then I'm gonna do like a 2-part series or something to do my 300-day review, but really the last 100 days. And I have to do that for both Japanese and Chinese. So that's kind of what I'm doing now. Both Chinese and Japanese has a 100-day gap. I think I'm gonna be sticking to 50 moving forward because the volume's too high. So we're talking about like on average, we're doing 40 elements into one construct twice for the last 100 days. So every 3 days, there's a construct that exists with 40 elements for both Japanese and Chinese. So that's over 80 elements total with 2 constructs to remember. And to do both of these reviews, I need to remember approximately 34. It's like between 34 and 33 constructs for each of the course, which I'm gonna be transparent here. It's absurd. I cannot as I'm reviewing this, there's so many gaps in my my memory. So what I mean by gaps is it's very different from if I stare at this, I know what it is. If I stare at this, I'm talking about you don't see anything and you're writing from memory. That's my final review, right? The idea is you're recalling without context clues. You're providing the context clues yourself. If I hide all of this, can you write out Hui or Kai for me? Do you know what Kai looks like? Do you know Kai is part of what? And do you know which Kai I'm talking about? Hopefully you can write at least more than one Kai, and you should know at least more than one vocabulary word for each Kai. The reason why I'm not writing them is because the only Kai I know is the one that I just looked at. This Kai. So you have Kaisha, right? Kaisha would be an example. Oh yeah, you can follow me on Duolingo. Here, let me add you. Or I can follow you. Just add me and I'll follow you back. We follow everyone. You know, everyone that follows. MAKU, do you have X? There's a wild language thread. No, I do not. I don't use X. I forgot that's what Twitter is called now. X. Yeah, I haven't considered using X yet. Sorry about that. Hideyoshi. Right on. You actually gave me a huge motivation to keep going strong. Yeah, I hope so. And give Wanikani a try. Teach to learn. There aren't any monetary investments until level 3. So you can see how much volume they're putting. I can't wait to see how hard Wanikani goes, because if there's an obstacle, I will try harder, honestly. That's kind of what we want. I must admit, I myself am not working on learning to handwrite kanji at this point. That's perfectly fine. I think you want to motivate yourself, to do things that you see yourself doing for like most of the time. If you're typing most of the time, it wouldn't mean a lot, right? Like, nice. So writing for me is part of a part of a lot of different routines. I write notes a lot, and when I'm streaming, I rely on my handwriting a lot. So when I'm writing things on my on the screen, it's a natural part of my blackboard, like a blackboard, like chalk talk way of organizing my thoughts. And then I use a lot of diagrammic things, because oftentimes visual diagrams, like making makeshift curves and whatnot, is very important to the way I communicate and visualize things. And oftentimes people have a spectral, on a spectrum of aphantasia, right? They have trouble visualizing things and whatnot. So I've invested quite a lot of time to at least doing basic shapes that I can do, right? Basic shapes that I can do, that I can illustrate a point, right? That kind of thing. So it's a natural part of my routine. And what happens is I try to get as much of the senses as I can into my learning. Like when you're learning science, sometimes doing projects and building something like physics projects and stuff, that really gets me going. So I try to keep these in mind where I can tap more ways to engage myself. I don't think it's absolutely necessary. I think with the time that you can liberate, finding things that are most regular and then building out from there is a very conservative but consistent way of doing things, right? To improve yourself. Elephant language decoding has yielded loan words taken from engine set. That's interesting. I have no idea what an elephant language. Oh, you mean like a literal elephant? Huh. Anyways, I hope that why do I share all of this like really rapidly, guys, is that I don't want to prescribe things that you have to mimic. The idea is I am very excited to share with you what I do. The question is, do you get inspired to come up with some wacky ways in which you interact with your learning material? Because I could sit here, right? I could sit here and decide, this character is not that interesting. Let's make it interesting, right? Let's make it interesting so that's memorable. Now, you might be thinking, well, why waste time on that? It's like, well, why not? If it keeps you consistent and motivated, in my opinion, it's worth the time. Now, you might not get it. It might be cringy or you might miss the boat. The idea is try it for yourself, right? For me, language learning is transformative when you're interacting with other people because largely they have their own creative process. At least I like to hope. The people that don't stay around or do not resonate with me are the people that say, what's the big deal? What's the big deal? Wow, you spent 10 hours on Duolingo. What up? What's up, bro? Right? What's up, bro? What are you doing? Well, I'm talking with other people. I'm trying to demonstrate how instead of doing 100 reviews using rote memory, I could alternatively do this 10 times because of time with my own construct. And then one day when I learn new things, it gets thrown into the construct. It doesn't get thrown into like this number. So at some point when volumes exceed like 1,000, right? When you're getting to 1,000, then I'm remembering 100 larger things. I'm compressing. So much like kanji is compressing things. When I remember things, I take notes. And notes is a compression for yourself, right? When someone copies notes, it's different. There's no compression from the original source. When you're paraphrasing and actually taking notes, when you're constructing, you're compressing. So that the constructs that I'm making are getting more and more efficient. Like there are arrows in there because the arrows stand for 10 words that I already know, right? So what happens is I'm constantly reminding myself, what goes in here? Do I know them? And so on. And from day to day, it becomes more and more elaborate. Things become more and more elaborate over time. Hey, you learned a lot. You're very smart. I'm definitely subscribed. Feel free. I think anyone can do this, in my opinion. Okay, that's a little bit of a hot take. I think when you're motivated, you have your own way of doing things to compress and create connections. And connections reinforce, you think of your brain as neuronal connections. So being able to inspire people to be creative and inspiring yourself to be creative when you other people don't want to be creative, that's kind of the idea behind most of this. By the way, you're also streaming Japanese learning journey. Oh, neat. Maybe one day we can talk about Chinese and Japanese. Oh, most certainly. I can't wait. If it works, it ain't stupid, right? Yeah, I mean, it could still be stupid to other people, right? You don't have control over what other people think, but you can smile and say, well, it works for me. I didn't say it works for you. That kind of thing, right? When someone comes up to you and say, well, that's stupid, it's not going to work. It's probably not going to work for you then. But the thing is, they can't change how it works for you, right? So it's kind of a mutual thing. It's like, oh, that's okay. Like the things I'm doing here, I'm not saying that they're like the best kept secret or hidden gem or anything. I'm trying to demonstrate that you can create things on top of well established things that are individualized to you. And when someone says that's stupid, it's kind of their own opportunity to gain or not. So like if you don't resonate with me, that's perfectly understandable. And you are more than entitled to think it's stupid because it's irrelevant. I can't tell you how many times someone tells me like no one cares. It's like, why are you making a big deal of something that's not a big deal? It's like, well, it's a big deal to me. I can definitely understand why it's not a big deal to you. So hopefully in your life, you get to find something that's a big deal to you, because life is very dull and boring and possibly even stupid when you don't think what you're doing is important, right? The last thing I want people to know is if I'm streaming Duolingo and someone has to ask me, is Duolingo stupid or is this not important to you? It's like, okay, I'm not sure how you live your life, but generally speaking, if I get a choice to do something, I don't choose to do something stupid. So yes, there are such things as stupid questions. However, that does not dictate if you think the question is important. I ask a question that I deem important. Other people might think it's silly or stupid. However, I'm still asking for it because it is for my own benefit, right? So it can be a little bit trying at times when you have to juggle the idea of other people's opinions and your own, right? That's kind of what I would have to say about that. Maintaining motivation and engagement is key, absolutely. And take time out of your day to watch. You take time out of your day to watch me because I find your content inspiring. Well, I could be doing lessons instead. Don't forget your lessons, obviously. But I think by the way, I took a peek at level 38 Gecko. Boy, there are lots of fun kanji. It's funny. It's kind of funny because I clicked on one of the units on unit 38 or on level 38 on Wanikani, and one of them is baka. Like, of all the kanji, of all the characters and vocabulary, I scroll down and immediately the one kanji that stuck out was baka. I'm like, okay. So it's all I can think about is, since you mentioned level 38, I have that to look forward to. So immediately I'm already looking forward to the idea that one day, at the end of 2025, maybe at the end of 2025, I will get to tell you, that's right, just done that one recently. It was fun to see it pop. Exactly. So what I can tell you is thank you for sharing yesterday, like you were on level 38 and whatnot, and I had to invest in some way to be interested, right? So the details you gave me allowed me to find a sentimental connection. So I will tell you, I will be excited to tell you when I get there and tell you the story in another maybe like 6 months. 6 months to a year. I don't really know what the timing is going to be like, but we're going to say at least by the end of 2025, I'll be able to tell you that I learned this exact moment. Neat. Very neat. It's very important. It sounds like a trivial thing, from the outside, from other people, but this is between you and me, right? Between you and me. Yeah. Let's see. So what they say, like they make engine noises for it to go, and do train noises for unstoppability, and little car noises for playfulness, as well as distinguishing by coming and going by pitch accents to simulate the Doppler effect. That sounds like two beatboxers going at it. They even stutter to indicate wild changes in acceleration gear. So, all right, well, good luck. Yeah, take care. Take care, Hideyoshi. In elephant language. So elephants? Are we still talking about real elephants here? Hang on. Elephant language. Elephant communicates via touch, visual. Wait, are we? I think we're actually really talking about elephants, actual elephant communication. I heard about using pattern recognition and whatnot, breakthroughs in distinguishing between animal communication, but that's kind of neat. Anyways, Hideyoshi is a procurer of exotic observations about language. And so, Gecko, between you and me, I can't wait to see how you go about doing this volume, right? Like the volume change. It's really sharp. What I would say that I like about Wanikani is that it looks like they're doing like a smooth curve thing, right? Like possibly this and then normalize it a little bit, possibly, and then go steady up. Duolingo does like this quantized thing. Like they're like, okay, and then maybe like, okay. And then suddenly it's like here on certain things like vocab. It's like very sharp, but they hold it for a little bit. I don't know how much I like that. The idea is, since Duo is based on like voluntary choice, right? Voluntary choice, how long you do things. I think you smooth out the curves yourself, right? So you kind of like try to smooth out the curves voluntarily yourself, and that's what I'm doing most of the time. So when it's low, I keep expanding. And then when it's high, I try to compress. I try to compress. So because of this recent experiment with 100 days, I'm compressing from now on. Like I'm actually trying to reduce the amounts of stuff because it's becoming a little bit too much. Anyways, now we're gonna go back. So what was I gonna do today? Oh, I was gonna do recall. So my review yesterday. So now to start the day, right? To start our review day. Yesterday I had obviously a bunch of weaknesses. So let's go over the stuff that I wrote yesterday. Some weaknesses. Largely it was about days that I haven't used in a while. So did it have a dot? So we had Eijitsu, Ototoi, Ototoi, Konya, oh, that's awful. Let's try that again. Konya. Asatte. Asatte. Maisuki, ongetsu. Then we had parents, like relationships, like family relationships are kind of weak. Was it like this? Yes. Shinseki. Yes. Shinseki. 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 Go shujin. In. Look. Heading to bed. Take care. Jane. Yeah, oyasumi nasai. Yako. Yeah, mata ne. Go shujin. Go shujin. Okay. Shimai. 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 Kekkon. 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 Zaitaku. Zaitaku. Zai. So. Zai. Aku. Okay. And random adjective was your white. Your white. And objects. I remember Saifu. And then Futon. Futon. Ashi. Ashi. Yeah. Ashi looks gross. Try again. Ugh. Ugh. Looks okay. There was a counter. Satsu. Or counter for books. Satsu. A position. Position word. Tonari. Tonari. Yoko. Yoko. I think it's... Is it a box? Box. And Ushiro. 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 Right? Ushiro. I think those are the ones that were kind of weak. I didn't quite get the read on those. All right, let's go back. I think we're changing up this strategy. We're gonna go from most recent to the latest. I think that's kind of how we're gonna go about it. So, are we okay with this? I think we're okay with it. We're filling this out. So let's go backwards and see as far back as we can get. And then that's gonna be it. If I don't remember, I don't remember it. At the end of another 6 days, I'm almost guaranteed to not remember 20%. I feel like we're about passing grade now. We're like barely passing. Like a B memory. Well, let's go over the, I suppose. So, 珍しい君君発音必要 and 優しい okay, that's fine. And then the grammar was, the biggest grammar was conversion, stem なくてもいい, right? And then this one was potential form. So 一段誰 verb stem 誰 and 五段 is the verb stem conversion, right? And then the rest of the conjugation. 踊る for dance. 踊る何? How am I drawing a blank on this? In a word I already know. Shinjiru was new. 探す 覚える わかる I don't remember. This is gonna hurt my soul here. Oh, it's because the typing is different. The print is different. Yeah, naosu. That's fine. This is okay. Naosu, I would write naosu this way most of the time. I gotta remember that there's no, like, on the print, there's no left thing. So that's kind of a new issue or new thing to overcome. Naosu. Yeah, that doesn't look like anything without the because the bottom in this, the bottom is connected, but it's not connected in this print style. So I usually write this character. So naosu. I should have kept going through my predicates from this unit, the new predicates, which the new ones were shinjiru, naosu, odoru, sagasu. That's actually it. Yeah, not too much vocabulary. Grammar unit. Alright, so let's start with this. How much time do we have? Maybe 2 hours? 2 hours? Let's see if we can... Well, let's cover this first. Right, this is part of Taiso. Taiso. Where the heck did I go? ISO. 陸上。陸上。It's player. 練習 No. 練習 Yeah, 練習 Right. 練習 練習 Something MAKU. Where's MAKU at? MAKU. Shumoku. Yeah, Shumoku. Shumoku. What is it? Shumoku? Ne? Shumoku. Dang it! Oh, this is Kaijo. Right. Oh, dang it. Kaijo for stadium. Kaijo. That's why I was confusing them. Where's Shumoku at? Moku. What? Oh, am I missing? Oh, no, wait. Oh, no. No, that is Shumoku. Oh, I hit the wrong one. Wait, no, that is Shumoku. Wait. Oh, just kidding. Yeah, this is Kai. That makes more sense to go to like an event, like a place where you go to for an event. And then Shumoku, see something that's being done. Shumoku, an event. And then Judo. Judo. Takyu. Takyu. Do. Kin? Kinzo. Kinzo. And kin. Anoshimi. Karate. Right. Alright. Let's practice this one. Go. Alright.
Shimoku.
Shimoku. Man. Of course they would rub it in. Kidding.
Shimoku.
Shimoku.
Shimoku. Shimoku.
Shimoku.
Shimoku. Shimoku. Shimoku.
Shimoku.
Almost blanked out.
種目
No blank, please.
種目
No blank.
種目
Bum. Yamanote Sen. Oh, it's te. It's a
山
te.
手線
Yamanote Sen. So what are they gonna do?
選手
Senshu. So shu and te. Yamanote Sen. Eta.
下手
Eta.
上手
Jozu.
線
Sen.
選手
Senshu.
山の
Yamanote Sen.
線手
Senshu.
山手線
Senshu. Yamanote Sen. Sen wa
山手
eh,
選手
senchu. Oh, that's pretty impressive. That it's it's good data, but that's pretty impressive that someone is covering all the units. I kind of get it though. I kind of get it going every learn the hiragana, right? I probably would recommend. Yeah, man, yeah. I could kind of see that being something to do. Like just do the first bubble, do the first lesson set, the learn lesson set, prior to section 3 unit 37. Huh. Maybe I'll keep that in mind because the kana is a little bit it's a little overdone.
選手
Senshu.
山手線
This is important. Wait, no. Yes, it is. No, it's not. It's kite
切って
山口
山口
運転手ね
運転手
Okay. Filling him in. Place. 場所
場所
Oh. 広場
広場
Hiro? Oh, wait. No, it's Hiro, not Hiru. Hiro. Yeah, Hiroba. 場所。広場。
広場
場所。
場所
台所。
台所
So, 住所。
ご住所
I didn't realize your honorable address. 住所。背広。
背広
Another hero kind of thing. Hiru.
広
広
場。
広場。
場所
場所。Ba Baram. Da. No, I'm sorry.
場所 広場
I didn't get to ask what Kozu was up to. Kozu, are you still here?
場所
ね。場所。広島。
広島
広島。広場。
広場
広場。広場。近所。
近所
近所。You're chilling and doing Spanish lessons? Oh, okay. You're just chilling and doing Spanish lessons. You have any New Year's resolution for me, Cozy? What do you got? What do you got in the pipelines?
住所
Yusho. My goal of my New Year's resolution is starting to we're already working on it. We're getting 2 other people pumped to do language learning, to get pumped. We're pumping people up already. It's already been a good excellent first 2 days. Getting people pumped for language learning. Are you pumped? I was gonna make like a pump you up. Is that an Arnold Schwarzenegger reference? Who said I will pump you up? I feel like that's an Arnold Schwarzenegger thing. but it might not be. Could be something like a... Huh. Who said that before? I'll pump you up. It was more of a fitness thing. I remember it's a bodybuilder of some sort. You want to be better with your communication? Nice. Nice. I like it. A nice, like, spectral thing. Long story. I see, I see. Long story, huh? Well, we have all of 2025. You know, you can fill me in on little bits and crumbs and bread, and I'll, bread crumbs and whatnot. Maybe I'll get the full picture by the end of 2025. Feel free. What the heck was this? Oh, this is to gather. Atsumari. Atsumari. Tanoshimi.
楽しみ
Atsunari.
集まり
Atsumari.
熱
Tanoshi. Tanoshimi. Atsunari.
集まり
Atsumari. Stand. Just kidding. This is Hajimaru.
始まる
Hajimaru.
来ます 楽
Tanoshimi.
しみ
Ne? Oh no. I think we're gonna write this on the weakness thing at some point. Oh, this is within one of our units, so we'll be fine. We covered this. But the other thing, you're being more professional with doing things? Alright. Alright. I like it. I like it. Be more professional. Intriguing. Now you got my interest piqued. Along with the long story tease. Break. Break. No idea.
休み
Really? Oh, oh, oh. That's an English thing. Never mind. I wanted to say Yasumi, but I thought I was thinking of to break, not break as in rest. I thought this might mean something else. Should have just stuck with you. Never mind. We don't need to. It's fine. It's in English. I overthought it. That is Yasumi, but
集まり
Tsumari. Pay attention more to Japanese.
集り
Less about the English, more about the Japanese.
楽しみ
集まり
Tsumari.
集まり
Kariru. Ne? Kariru.
借りる
Tsumari.
集まり
Akarui.
明るい楽し
Tanoshimi.
み
Okina.
大きな
楽しみ
Tanoshimi.
たのしみ
Oh. Man. This is Nikiyaka. Man, Nikiyaka is so weak. I'm not sure if I ever got Nikiyaka on the list. I don't remember which construct that is. I feel like it did come up somewhere. Nikiyaka. Where did it come up? You whispered? Alright. Wait. Are you sure? Hopefully that whisper didn't go to someone else. I'll give it a few minutes. I hope that whisper didn't go to anyone else.
にぎやか
にぎやか。
楽しみ
Maybe it's like... Do I remember writing this? Better question. I don't seem to remember writing. Let me check again. Yeah, I didn't get anything. Maybe if I go back to the front page? No. Okay. Ureshi.
嬉しい
That's fine.
集まり
Yeah, hopefully it didn't go to someone else. Let's see. Okiru.
起きる
Okay. We'll just give it a little time, you know. Sometimes Twitch goes on break. Yasumi.
集まり
Sorry, had to cough. Oh, okay. There it is. Okay. That's fair enough.
楽しみ
Tanoshimi. That's all the whisper.
明るい
Akarui. Karui. Whoops.
集まり
Atsumari.
欲しい
Hoshi.
あた
Atarashi. Okay. Communication. I almost want to say like imagination. Sorry. I was doing a SpongeBob meme. I don't watch SpongeBob that much, but I did see that episode. Communication. Oh, that should be a... I could totally draw an emo for that and animate that. Where like instead of the rainbow, and then obviously draw something else, because we don't want to get SpongeBob copywritten. But it's just like communication. That's my jam. I feel like a lot of times there is a potential that people may misconstrued my agreeability for being naive or being like an optimist. I'm more of a realistic communication person. So being agreeable is part of communication. It's not necessarily being part of optimistic or optimism. You can communicate very, very negative things in a very constructive way without being an optimistic person, right? You can join in someone's anger by proper communication as opposed to getting them to chill out. Sometimes when you say chill out, it could add fuel to the fire. So oftentimes I think it's worth reminding others and oneself being agreeable doesn't mean you're always positive. I think that's somewhat of a misnomer. Yeah, and agreeing can be toxic, yes. Agreeing can definitely be toxic. Echo chamber. Echo chamber is a very dangerous thing. Groupthink can exacerbate, it can enhance extreme behavior. So being agreeable at all times, that's different from focusing on appropriate communication at all times. It sounds like I'm always saying things, or I try to say things that people want to hear, but that doesn't necessarily mean it's always something that they agree with, right? So I try to say things that cause people to communicate, not prevent them from communicating. And oftentimes, agreeing momentarily while disagreeing on other things at the same time promotes communication. Completely agreeing actually a lot of times diminish communication a lot of times, because that other person will have less and less to contribute, right? It'd be like, yep, I hear you, like, yep, reach, kind of thing, right? So then you're less likely to actually communicate. When you are in full agreement all the time, there's less to be discussed. It's not to say that you should do that all the time. However, if you want to participate in communication, being around people that you constantly inherently and intrinsically agree, and you don't need to practice that. For my closest friends, for instance, we don't say a lot to each other, largely because we implicitly agree with each other most of the time. So in order to challenge ourselves, we bring stories, other people's stories. We ask about how did they interact with other people. Then we discuss that interaction with other people, like about other people. Because if we discuss things between ourselves, there's not much to talk about. That's why, in my opinion, when you sit around a coffee table, right, with quote unquote intellectually like-minded people, they're usually talking about other things as opposed to exchanging pleasantries, right? How was your day? I'm sufficiently content. And yourself, sir? Remarkably and satisfactorily uneventful. Thank you for inquiring about it. Now let's talk about the topical controversy at hand. And then we would go and discuss things that are controversial, because ultimately what's not controversial is that the two of us probably have very similar lifestyles and we manage. If yous disagree, would you still be friends? Absolutely. We disagree all the time, actually. What I mean by that is we don't disagree fundamentally. We disagree all the time in terms of intellectually. So it's one of those like misnomers about compatibility. The nuances of compatibility and like opposites attract. This is where it comes down to like buzzwords, right? These are generalities. So the idea of generalities is that you have to remember they are observations without context, usually without enough context. So we are compatible as friends. So our fundamental cores are compatible. Like if there is a problem, for example, there's a communicative solution. That does not change ever, right? Communicative. So this is non-negotiable. This is what makes us friends. However, we are at the same time oppositely attracted to different interests, right? We have different interests, and we will argue about what we know and what we don't know, right? This is the whole, if you get saucy, why do people who have differing opinions are attracted to each other kind of thing, like even as friends or like coworkers and stuff. It's largely because within the foundation of compatibility, we have we entertain and let in new information, right? So it's most of the time both these generalities persist in a couple or in a interpersonal relationship. It's not one or the other, right? So I feel a lot of times when you do generalities, do not forget, or one, try not to forget that it's usually both or more. Like there are more than just this, but generalities help us reduce the amount of nuance that needs to be known. So a relationship is built upon both compatibility and ability to resolve disagreements and agreements, right? Even agreements require resolution. Usually it requires less effort, but resolving disagreements require effort, and that effort is made possible by compatibility. So gone are the ways of trying to generalize successful relationships by saying, oh, opposites attract, waka waka waka, and then, oh, it's always about compatibility that's more consistent. The idea is they both coexist. These generalities exist at the same time in a specific time frame, largely because there are examples of them in successful couples. But little do people like to use confirmation bias all the time. It's both of these qualities actually exist in successful couples. Now there are couples maybe not so compatible and some opposites attract, then it's on a spectrum. It creates a spectrum, right? If you focus on compatibility, it'll take you so far. If you focus on opposite attract, it'll take you so far. However, if you have both and be able to be aware of both, it'll probably take you further. That's kind of the idea, right? The more flexible you are when you're interacting with another person, the more likely you'll be able to solve problems and stay consistently communicating. It's not to say that you can meet your soulmate, right? And you can rely on a potential that's overlapped and that's sufficient. And what you do is you can choose to ignore the rest. That is possible. The threshold is whichever the threshold of the individual. The idea is you're comparing one option with two options. And holistically, one is greater than two. Oh no. One is less than two. I was thinking of something else. One is less than two options. Okay. Sorry, I misspoke there. One equals two. Yes. That disagreement creates someone walking away and disowning. Yeah. I mean, that means that there wasn't compatibility. Oftentimes when you say disagreement, right? Disagreement. What is the underpinning of disagreement? Compatibility. If you have disagreement built on conflict of interest, as in incompatibility, right? I'm being general too, by the way. I'm being general as well. So let's not dive into. I'm not a professional counselor or anything, but when there's a thing built on conflict of interest, then the disagreement does not get resolved. No resolution, right? It's an impasse. So then that immediately goes to disownership. Right? For one equals two, I probably have seen. I'm just looking at his proof right now. I'm surprised no one made a counter rebuttal to this. It'll just pick any video of it. I just pick any video of it. Yeah, it's that's there's an explainer to this. It has to do with 0 and 1. But yes, that would be a proof for something like that. If the goal is to only prove that 1 equals 2 by removing the variables using the special properties of 0 and 1.
音楽
Ongaku. Actually, Hideyoshi would have loved to say something about that. Hideyoshi is not here. He left, or Hideyoshi left earlier. Hideyoshi is really into at least that algebra, and like not into like advanced differential equations, but got a very big heart for algebra, or relating algebra to language learning. I'll have to share that with him sometime. Yeah, I'll keep that in mind. The 1 equals 2 thing. 1 is greater than 2. You heard it here. Okay, hear me out. All right, I'm gonna rescue myself. Okay, I'm gonna rescue myself. You guys follow me? It's gonna be related to Japanese, Blair. This is for you, Blair. How does 1 equal 2? Kanji equals kana. 2 kana. Solve it. We could use Kimi, I guess. Any form of compression will be proof. So any form of compression can solve this axiom. So 1 equals 2. Kimi equals Kimi. Right. So there you go. This is my language learning proof for 1 equals 2. Kimi equals Kimi. There you go. For you, Blair. It's kind of what the guy did, by the way. It's kind of what the guy did when he said, if you can prove 1 equals 2, right? If you can prove 1 equals 2. The clever thing that the person did in algebra, using algebra, proves something, but there's like a big asterisk, and obviously there's a big asterisk here too. Technically, Kimi is still 1 character, and then Kimi is 2 characters. So it could still be seen as different, but it was a clever little like technicality, right? Funny. You gotta love these things.
楽しみ
Anoshimi. Ongaku. You gotta think on your feet when you're making mistakes all the time. Okay. I'll say a concession. Here, I'm here to confess my sins as well. Here are my concessions. For 2025, my first concession that I will have to tell most people. I make a lot of mistakes. Now hear me out here. I spend a lot of my life testing out new ways to say things all the time. Like live, right? However, with a lifetime of experience of making foolish saying mistakes comes with a lot of experience to recover from it. So one day, every once in a while, someone's gonna say something like, and here's a negative way to view it. someone will tell me, someone has multiple people, maybe in 2023. Actually, 2024 hasn't been too bad. Eventually, we'll encounter someone who's an unstoppable force, and I'm a immovable wall, right? I tend to be an immovable wall than an unstoppable force. When I meet this unstoppable force, more or less, those at the end of the day, that person would eventually attack my character, and it ends up paraphrasing, "You think you are always right." And then my response is, I tend to try to own up to my mistakes and recover from them. So, like, yes, it's gonna feel like I'm always right because I try to always make it right. That's different from being right factually. I want us to be right. So the more I lean, the more unstoppable I am, is that I carry your momentum with me. So when someone has an argument with me, I'm going to use that argument as a lesson for the rest of, as long as it's relevant. So if someone points out a mistake, even though I argue with the mistake and talk about the contextual things, I do not abandon the value of that mistake in the first place, right? So for every correction that has come along, every criticism that has come along, I've carried those criticisms with me. So in the end of the day, I try to make it right, as in I try to make both of us as right as possible. So that kind of makes it feel like I've adopted that guy's idea and then bend it to my own to make it sound like I'm right. And the idea is, it's not you and me, it's us. When we're having an argument, eventually I want it to become us. We had a discussion, not who is right and who is wrong. We have come to a discussion about what we believe is right. So whether that means I concede and say, "Oh, you are correct, and I agree with you, therefore making me right," that is up to the other person. Oftentimes when someone says, "Do you always need to have the last word?" Well, yes, because I have to agree with you in order to end the discussion, right? So if I agree with you, that is the last word, in which I am correct, right? So there's a lot of bitterness when it comes to someone saying, "I agree with you, so therefore I'm no longer wrong because you are right." And the cycle keeps continuing, right? And it's happened very, very, not in those words. I'm paraphrasing a lot of things. It can come in many forms, with specifics and stuff, but you can imagine that happening. Like, oh, I see your point. May I add something to your point? I totally agree with you. I think in the situation and the conditions that you have stated, that is correct. Right? When I'm in my element, I'm unstoppable, but the problem I have makes me movable. Ooh. That's an interesting turn of phrase. I see. Huh. Even when you agree, they can turn on you. Yeah. So, most of the time I prioritize making sure I understand the person's perspective, frame it in a way that I can agree with them, and then try to add something. However, it doesn't always often come off as, the nice thing is I can at least affirm what I agree with, whether I agree or disagree with that person, and then we can wrap it around. And oftentimes when people talk about facts, I agree. Like, if it's a fact, it's a fact. Now the question is, then I try to interpret what they're interpreting from the facts, right? So do those coincide? If they don't, that's perfectly fine because we both agree on the facts, right? So in the end of the day, the facts are facts, and then how we interpret it, we disagree, and that's fine. And when I say we disagree, it would mean that I'm trying to make it right, right? We're trying to clarify that both of us agree on what the facts are. However, how we interpret those facts are different, and that is the foundation of being able to observe and find a common ground of agreement while ultimately disagreeing on what that means. That's kind of a weird way to say professional talk and political correctness and yada 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 yada. It's like Duolingo is a very popular app. We both agree on that. It is the most popular app. Statistically, it is the most popular app. Now, what does that mean? Someone can really hate Duolingo. It's still a popular app, but they can hate it. And then someone can like it, right? And that's usually my counter argument that I use all the time. It's like, it's funny you say that something popular has to be likable, but here we are discussing how lots of people, we talked about this earlier. I met a new person who is currently using Duolingo and looking at other sources today, Teach to Learn. And the first comment I made is that, yes, there are a lot of negative talk to Duolingo. Now hear me out here. The selection factor for Duolingo is that it's incredibly popular. It's almost 10 times the volume, and it appears to a larger audience. So with that larger audience comes more negative input, and it also covers many languages. So the likelihood is all those languages will have different requirements, right? And even more likely to have negative talk. While they have negative talk, they also am having positive talk equal to that magnitude. So the likelihood of you encountering negative talk is higher on a case-by-case basis on Duolingo, while at the same time, this is the result of Duolingo being popular. So it's to dispel the dissonance that popular things are unanimously popular, like positive, and that popularity equates to quality. And selection factor, and small sample size products could have targeted selection. So that means that with targeted selection, it does not equate to quality. That kind of thing. So both is true, right? And that's why I'm not all for popularity. I do both, right? What popularity for me means that higher propensity for community mosaicism. Now, how well this product controls the mosaic system could be something worth considering. The idea is, what can I do to encounter the most different type of language learners? You probably go with a higher sample size. And then how distributed is the higher sample size? Well, Duolingo has the higher one, right? Yeah, that's just to show a separate thing. And when you say, and that's not why not all popularity, you're not all for popularity. One day, one of us will become popular, and then we would have to, what if, right? Some things that you used to be not popular becomes popular. Are you not all for popularity then, right? These situations, all or none statements, can be a little bit of a touchy perspective. For me, Duolingo is probably the most popular thing I've ever streamed to this date. Wanikani is probably a more closer thing than anything. Yeah, now that I think about it, it is statistically the most popular thing I've ever streamed. And interestingly enough, due to the mosaic nature of Duolingo, you have me and like some random collage of not popular people streaming Duolingo. So in the sphere of Duolingo, it is incredibly unpopular to stream on Twitch. So Duolingo is both very popular and unpopular at the same time, given specific conditions. So I would say Duolingo is both, so it's difficult to choose a product without the consideration for what the selection factors are. It's kind of one of those things. That person said that they heard a lot of negative things about Duolingo, and I needed to understand at least where that negativity is coming from, which I was able to describe it in terms of my own experiences with this negative talk with Duolingo about Duolingo. Interesting, right?
韓国
Hankoku. Anoshimi.
楽しみ
Oops.
楽しみ
What's another thing? Dandadan. That's a harder understanding, but if one of us were to get popular, I would. Yeah. One is an introspection, require introspection, and one the other requires interpersonal, relational, with introspection. So, it's interesting. It's quite a conundrum, I know, and I earnestly think that, where there's a will, there's a way. You'll find out what works for you. I like to believe that. Being prepared and being equipped and exploring yourself and interaction with others, I think humans have a way of negotiating how you juggle that. One thing is worth saying is one of the major steps in quote unquote like content creation or professionalism is that step, where when you suddenly have realized that you are one in which people heavily rely on for professional advice, right? Once you become professionally recognizable, it suddenly changes. It challenges the person to see how far they have thought ahead in terms of the situation. And I think most successful people will say, in retrospect, that was when they were able to redefine and step up to the challenge of negotiating that type of sentiment. I don't think I've ever occupied a position that was astoundingly popular. I think most of my life and my professionalism was in a very niche field, right? A specialized field, and that's not weighed on popular opinion. So I can earnestly say it's a conundrum for myself too, of one that I have thought about for quite some time. And it's one of those things, I feel like I can figure it out on the ride. With that said though, am I that special? Well, I'm different from a lot of content creators who discover their first form of professionalism or need for professionalism as content creators. Like their first set of responsibilities is becoming popular as a content creator. And you probably seen a lot of YouTube channels or exposures and exposés on the hits and misses of the last decade regarding content creators that were able to adapt to that sudden influx of responsibility versus content creators that have not. And for myself, luckily, professionally, I have been in situations where I did have some influence. So professionally, I wouldn't say I'm too far away from being professionally responsible for what I'm doing, largely because I started before the internet era. It would be great for YouTube channels by default, or like content creation channels, you know, by the companies and stuff, to continue to work on their community guidelines, their streams. YouTube is doing a lot of, like, what I mean is you can see visibly the effort the company, as a offshoot of Alphabet, right, is doing to provide iterations on guidelines. And so what happens when this happens? what happens, what are your responsibilities and whatnot. And it comes with and forward investment in their ecosystem, right? When people suddenly become popular, it's a hit and miss. They can crack and fail to adapt quickly enough to their expanding progress, which happens outside of the internet, by the way, like startups, for example, tech startups. You expand far beyond your human resource management can handle, and then you collapse, right? Others hit the brakes and say, whoa, okay, let's slow down a little bit. I need time to process this. Can we all chill out for a moment? All right, cool. And then, they glide successfully to adapt to it. Or they scale down, scale up, scale down, scale up. Professionally, myself, it's been like a steady up. And then suddenly it all disappears. So from that, I didn't collapse or anything. Kind of a nice thing. I think my life kind of prepared me for rock bottom most of the time. And what I mean by that is, I'm not saying it was a bad or a good thing. One thing is my career technically came to a halt for other things, right? We exchanged one for the other, as opposed to viewing it as a literal halt. And when they are big with success, they don't last. Yeah. So, however, there's redemption. There's redemption. From that experience comes other opportunities, and you can hear a lot of the resurgence and paths of redemption due to the sudden ability and life experiences to learn from, right? Some people go big, they stumble along the way, and then they come back stronger, and those stories are fantastic. I've been watching a channel of someone that I've seen since the OG YouTube days, and this person is doing well, like very well, and even through the bumps and whatnot. So it's good to hear those. It's nice to be able to see those type of stories.
一緒
一緒
音楽
音楽
楽しい
And I would say if that were to happen, I look forward to seeing how I would adjust to those bumps along the way, right? If it happens. I'm still entertaining the
楽しみ
楽しみ楽しみ
音楽
Okay.
楽
楽しみ
音楽
I heard so someone I brought a story today. It's a little small one. Because we already digressed a couple times today. Someone made a comment. And oftentimes the nice thing about YouTube videos is when they make a video comment, I could click on their names and see what's happening, right? And of course, not all of them have stuff, but they are more likely to have stuff than Twitch, right? Than Twitch. And one phrase rung a lot of thoughts for me that kind of led into what I was sharing earlier, like a few minutes ago. And that was the phrase YouTube entrepreneur. Now there's a buzzword for you. YouTube entrepreneur. And that's an English word for you. Well, quote unquote English word. Entrepreneur. Anyways.
楽しみ
I'll let you think about how that relates to everything else. Nakayama.
中山
I think I would add the word prospective. Prospective YouTube entrepreneur. Although it would be a much more market friendly for their potential viral video if they don't use the word prospective. because prospective or entry, yes, would suggest that you might not ever become a YouTube entrepreneur. You are wanting to, or expecting to, or starting to be. Oh, entre? Oh yeah, it's French. Yeah, entrepreneur. Yeah, I think it's French. I don't know. Sorry. I was thinking of a different word. I was thinking of entry. Entrepreneur. Let's look. Every day we're learning more about English. French? French. Yeah. Bits and pieces of French. It's entendre French too. Entendre. Oh no, Latin. Interesting. In French, it's a obsolete verb. Oh, okay. It's related to Catalan though. Oh, entender. I see. So Latin. Okay. Neat.
公園
Oh, and Simi.
包み
Simi. Oops. Simi. Okay. Venue. Where did venue come from? Venue. Okay, Latin. Old French. Okay, Old French. Man, venue. Immediately. The Duolingo is like, I got you. I got you, boo. Here you go. Venue. What's another one? Ennui. Ah, yes. The ennui. That's got to be French, right? Ennui. French. Okay. There's something about English words that sound French that makes them immediately like, oh, that's such an esoteric word. That's got to be French. It's like it sounds fancy. Ennui. Come on. I like using fancy words. It's fun and gaggles, you know. Giggles and chuckles. What is this? Oh, kaijo. Shumoku.
種目
Shimoku. Shimoku kaijo.
会場
How about maudlin? Is maudlin French? Maudlin. French. Oh well, you know, Latin, Old French, and then English. But maudlin, there's so many vocabulary words, and these are from high school vocabulary. High school vocabulary. I wouldn't mind learning French, but to use it or whatever. But to use it or what? Who needs to learn French? I'm kidding. Who needs to learn French when you have so many French words already? You know, I'm kidding. I'm kidding. It would be fun to figure out like learn French just for the French stuff, you know. You mistyped? Oh. Double negative? Maybe, I don't know. What was the sentiment? Kaijo. Oh, there's an U. Kaijo. I thought it was Kaijo. Kaijo. I wouldn't use it. I wouldn't use... But I wouldn't use it. Yeah, yeah. Or I wouldn't use... Mid. Okay, you're just gonna have to type the whole thing for me. I'm confused. Sorry. Shumoku. Shumoku. I think it was Shumoku. Machinaka.
街中選手
Senshu. Nani? Zenbu. No. Not Zenbu. What is this? Oh, Shuto. Shuto.
首都
Shuto. Shuto. Oh, okay.
種目
Shimoku. Kaijo.
会
Kaijo. I need to hold that a little longer. There's another syllable.
会場
Jo. Kaijo. Shimoku.
種目会場
Kaijo. Kaijo.
会場
Be able to know French but not to use it for speaking or for too professional about it. Okay. Huh. What is the origins of profession? Oh, okay. It's a combination of the current one, still French, but it's a combination of French and English. I'm like, profession? That sounds fancy too. Sorry. Sorry. France or the French or the culture don't appeal to you? That's fair enough. It's okay. When you're communicating in professional English, you'll end up sounding French enough. I'm kidding. I'm kidding. Sort of. It's certainly a conundrum, right? Actually, conundrum doesn't sound like... Conundrum seems like oh, unknown origins. Intriguing. Unknown origin for conundrum. A wee baguette. Conundrum. Not clear. Not clear on conundrum. Huh. What about pardon? French. Pardon. I'm like, a lot of times I say pardon me, right? Like, pardon me a lot, more than, in like professional speak, I use pardon a lot. And I'm like, wait, that sounds like French too. It is. It's French. I have a feeling distinctively, if I think of words I don't commonly use on stream, I think a vast majority of them is probably French. French or mix of middle English plus Old French. Like superstition. Let's try superstition. Old French and Latin. Susceptibility. Let's try susceptibility. Susceptibility. What about, I guess we can do susceptible. Then. Oh, no, that one's fine. Susceptible is fine. Just straight up common origin. Interesting. I'm slowly getting a grasp of what feels like a French word and what isn't. Huh. Intriguing.
実会
Jukai.
選手
Senshu. Is there any Japanese to other languages connection? Is there any Japanese to other language connections? Unfortunately, I do not know enough about Japanese. Other than like Chinese, you know, other than Chinese, which is a direct connection because of onyomi. But that would be a great, I mean, it goes without saying English have literally adopted the Japanese words, so that is technically a connection now, right? It's kind of like saying nonchalant, right? Nonchalant. We say sushi, right? Or actually, we don't say sushi. We say sushi. So well, technically, it's connected to English, and the origin is Japanese. So I don't know. And then, you know, Japanese has the whole katakana thing going, like kohi. I'm like, okay, well, those are or that question? Nah, it's a really important question. You know what I mean? Like, what I mean by that is, if we didn't know each other now, imagine how many people do not know that. Like, we got to keep in mind that all of us are language learners, right? And language learners constitute a small, you know, secondary language acquisition constitutes a smaller minority of the world's population. Isn't that crazy to think about? Cozy? Like, think about, it feels like everyone, you would think everyone would be learning a language and, you know, wanting to learn a second language, but that's the normalization that we have now. Yeah, like, this is the minority, and that's so crazy to think because we spent so much time talking and embracing language as though it's like a social norm. You know, this is what the internet does as well, really well. The how it feels like everyone and every person around you is like, oh yeah, that's what everyone does. And then you step back for a moment, it's like, no, the vast majority of people have no interest in talking about language and how language connects with each other. So the things that I state like kohi and sushi, if you bring that up in a dinner table somewhere, right? They're like, oh, that's really interesting. I never thought of it that way. And then you have like that reality check, right? It slaps you in the face, like, don't forget, you spend most of your time thinking this way. However, lots of people don't. And that's what I mean. Sorry, I don't mean to counter argue you. It might be an interesting, it might seem like a trivial question to us, obviously. However, I could definitely see that if you sit around a table with like your peers and stuff, you know, your fellow Irish, around a pub, you know, sharing a drink, you suddenly just say this and like, yeah, it's super interesting. Tell me, and then, you know, they're like, we're not interested though. Don't tell me more about it. You know what I mean, Cozy? We're gonna end up being that little kid in the table saying, hey guys, did you know that? No, we don't, and we don't care, thanks. And then they shut you up. It's like, dude, please, we don't care if Japanese has relationships with English, like, thank you. And then obviously you want to have the emotional awareness that that is the case. What am I doing here? I'm basically plugging for interpersonal communication skills, because my thought, this is what, in my opinion, what the internet does really, really effectively, right? So when you go outside and you have a random encounter with someone, right? You go to a bar and then you start thinking, what do I talk to the person about? And that's where the social anxiety starts setting in, and the social, anxiousness and whatnot, is because then you suddenly think about, wait, what do I talk to someone who's random, who didn't pre-select themselves on the internet to talk to me about? And then, how do you overcome that nervousness, right? How do you sound respectful, agreeable, in like a mutual way for communication? And yeah, you don't get a lot of practice with that. Like English to Japanese you can do, but Japanese to English you can't. Can't what? What do you mean? Like, oh, you're quoting others? Oh, yeah. Like, what's the most impressive thing? Translating? Oh, but you can speak English through Japanese, right? Like, then that would be an interesting counterpoint to those peeps. like what I mean is, this is where like the nerd, or like the language learner would be like pushing up their glasses and be like, "Oh, my beer," and then they would talk in complete katakana eigo as though they knew what the English words are, and I'm like, Psh, I have no idea how to do that. Same with Spanish and Portuguese. Yeah, like the one kid, we haven't heard from the person in a long while, but there was a native Japanese speaker that we encountered maybe like 2 months ago, and they full stop, just straight up typed an English word, like an English sentence in katakana, and I'm like, nice, and they just straight up, and I'm like, it took me so long to read that, but it was an English sentence. Like when you read it, you understand it, but it was literally English though. It was English with Japanese kana, and Japanese people do that apparently, I suppose, or they can if they wanted to. So when it comes to like English to Japanese and Japanese to English, well, there's a way, but it's not like it's normal or anything, which is interesting. In terms of Spanish and Portuguese, I haven't tried with Spanish, actually. I think when I was a high school kid, we might have messed around with going back and forth, doing things. Now, the question is, when someone says going back and forth, right, from English to Japanese and Japanese to English, they're talking about transliteration, where like, or whatever that word is, but where you're talking about it's a one-for-one action, right? It's a one-for-one action. And I can agree with that. If the condition is to do a one-to-one action, that's perfectly fine. When I think of communicating what jumping means, like for example, my parents asked, what does this word mean? And it says jumping. I could say teal, like the teal is to jump, teal. Or I could jump and say teal at the same time, right? Like literally jump in front of them. So is that a one-to-one interaction? Well, you could argue that jumping is not considered a language or hop or anything. You could say all those things, and the one thing is you're interpretively going between the two. And for me, language is a capture of interpretation. Now, for others, the analytical minds and whatnot of today would like to capture it one-to-one. So when they say, in my opinion, it comes down to generalities again. Like whatever you say, they're going to find something that's not one-to-one. Well, the fact is, right? The fact we agree on is it's called Japanese and it's called English. So they don't equal each other. You know? Right? Like what I mean is, if your axiom is that Japanese does not equal English because it's called Japanese and it's called English, then the communication starts with, can we acknowledge that Japanese is not English, right? Otherwise, we call it Japanese isn't Japanese, right? So then you have to establish some ground rules, some axioms that one can make comparison about. So, for example, how do Japanese give you the communication of jumping? And how does an English speaker give you the communication of jumping? Well, then if we use that as a form of comparison, if you met a Japanese person and an English person and they both literally jumped as a method to communicate jumping, is that an extension of their language? Or is that an extension of the written language or the spoken language, right? It's clearly not those two. However, the perception of jumping, you could imagine a Japanese person jumping and an English person jumping. Demonstrate instead of saying, speaking is a form of demonstration, and writing is a form of demonstration. So literally jumping is a form of demonstration. Describing a tree as opposed to drawing a tree is demonstrating with your words what a tree is. Right? So, at least in my opinion. Then we would have to describe what demonstration means. Yeah. Showing, not speaking. If we are under the axiom, so you're establishing the idea that showing is not speaking. Right? So under that axiom, jumping does not count. Under my axiom, a form of showing is speaking. Otherwise, you would have terrible communication skills. Because you wouldn't try to show things by speaking. You would try to show things by relying on action. So, in my opinion. So, if you don't qualify speaking as showing someone something, then it's very difficult to understand how to show someone something by speaking. So, how do I show you words that are heartwarming? How do I show you respect by speaking? If showing can never be included in, like, if speaking is never showing something. To show love, for example, by speaking. That kind of thing. Imagery as well. Imagery, metaphor, creative writing, narration. These are forms, in my opinion, not yours, obviously. I understand. I appreciate the whole showing is not speaking, like talking is not walking, right? Right, walking, walk the walk, talk the talk. That's a very classical uphill battle that I usually talk about. The importance of communication is predicated on the idea that you can show by the words you use, right? You can make someone feel better about themselves by showing them through words. Like, close your eyes and think about your favorite place. Is it warm? Is it cold? Are you eating something? Is someone sitting next to you? That's showing by speaking, as opposed to literally dragging the person to a beach and say, have fun.
種目
Shimoku. Different perspective. I have a different perspective.
首都
Shito. Shuto. Shuto. と、
会場。
会場、
種目
種目. Different goals too, right? Different goals. I think for myself, each day I want to make my words more and more powerful for my uses. So one day I would love to have the ability to have someone that's hurting to talk to me and I'm able to show them that they're loved, as opposed to literally be able to produce something I cannot, which is like, a stranger can't depict or do that type of stuff, right? It's limited when you're like in an office or you're talking to a stranger to show something, right? To demonstrate something other than using your words.
種目
種目。種
種
目。
目
陸上。
陸上。種目。5
5
回。
回。
会場。
日本の日本。Also, to concede, most people don't consider speaking as a form of showing that I've encountered in my life. So I think the vast majority of people will likely agree with you. From my experience. And I spend most of my life trying to try anyways.
会場
I think it's a very useful tool for people who want to help people in no other way that's available to them.
会場。
会場. It speaks it's kind of useful as well because for myself, and like 90% of communication is through texting nowadays and emotes. So I would love to be able to use that texting in a way that can capture some form of emotion and some sort of feeling. Even creating new words to do so. Me and my friends, I use a lot of examples where I somewhat intentionally create new words or new phrases that are able to capture a feeling and an emotion that is shared between me and my close friends, to allow us to, like, this is our safe word, or this is our word that bonds us, kind of thing. So language is very powerful with that type of usage. It can also be abused, of course. For sure.
種目。
種目。
6回。
6回。
選手。
選手。5回。
5回。
I think podcasters are a really, really wonderful way to mine for different types of speaking techniques. This one guy basically lifts me off with every one of his like monologues of time, space, and dimension. Kind of just lift me off into a wonderland. It's no joke, but the saying language is a powerful thing. Yeah. A great superpower, in my opinion. I say this a lot, but it's also very scary if you can do that, right? In the with great power comes great responsibility kind of situation. If there is someone in your life where you're like, I'm in the worst place in my life right now, I need to see this person, and you just sit in a room and this person says a couple words to you and you're like you're out of the ditch. That is a really wonderful power. But it can also be very, you know, dangerous, and you want to make sure you are also aware enough in which it's not manipulative or abusive, right? Yeah, soothing, manipulative or soothing. And not there is a generality. There is a generality about speaking that has a property of sound, right? Like the actual sound, the tenor and the thing. And I think that's a generality that I feel that's great if that can help too. Like, oh, this person has a soothing voice. Oh, this person's cadence is very calming. That's great. And I think that's the beginning. That's the instinctive, intuitive, the visceral early, and then you want to go deeper, right? You want to go deeper. How can you what are the different ways you can get someone to make them feel like it's still technically considered manipulating. Like if you want to be super technical, if you're trying to get someone to feel better when they're feeling bad, that requires a bit of a understanding that you're changing your, hopefully, the intent is what separates between what is soothing and what is manipulative. When you soothe someone, you're also technically manipulating their present emotions. So a balance of allowing the person to have control and also distinguishing it from what you're contributing is a must, in my opinion. Very, for myself professionally, someone that I want to make clear that there's still a way to make someone feel like they're in control, which you still be in control. That's just so gross, and like I really am scared of that. However, if you're able to get someone to get control, observe the control that they're taking control, it's breathtaking. I make you feel better now. Give me something. Yeah, real talk. Real talk. It's very breathtaking to see someone, if you're able to say like 2 or 3 sentences and you see them literally take control with their words and telling you that I got this. That is easily one of the most remarkable things that illustrates the power of speech. Otherwise, give them a hug, maybe, if it's appropriate. Sometimes you can't just go up and start giving free hugs to everyone. I keep bags of cookies or treats every once in a while too. That's not manipulation, right? Right? You're not normalizing a reward system for good deeds, right? You're not attaching a substance to a coping strategy. That humans are endlessly fascinating. Like for example, what is more available? Telling yourself that you can do it and then suddenly all the pressure all the anxiety goes away, or needing a cookie, right? Like here's the idea, right? You have to ask yourself that, and you also have to ask the other person, are you comfortable with this? There are ways. Like for example, you don't have health concerns, you have great fitness discipline. What about eating ice cream when you're upset? Try that for every once in a while. Attach good meanings to that ice cream and it becomes a coping mechanism, right? Or you could say, boy, let me just think of ice cream right now. So hot out, it's a summer's day, you're drenched, your body temperature, you just keep panting, you have somewhat a wet towel, but it's all warm now. But suddenly you hear the chime of the ice cream truck. You hear it at a distance, it's slowly approaching. It's on that street corner where your old school bus stop was. You're pulling up, that person stops, they're offering a popsicle. You go up, you give them your dollar. I know ice cream's not $1 nowadays, but then you grab that ice cream and you just inhale it, and your body suddenly gets a mad tingling rush of relief from the heat, right? Like, you could say that to yourself, you could imagine that to yourself, and that would be available to you anywhere, right? So being able to consistently be able to get people to do that, that's available everywhere. Of course, if it's not, then you can like demonstrate and try to find conditions where it is more when it's more accessible, right? I That's what I feel about speech when it comes to helping people, or talking when it comes to helping people. It's not the most efficacious. It's definitely a Hail Mary pass a lot of times. However, it's to me, it's the least intrusive when you're going down. And what I mean by that is intrusive in the sense that you have to make available all these things. Like, you actually have to find an ice cream truck. You have to buy ice cream. You have to, the lower the barrier, I think the more accessible it becomes, the more that person can take control of their life, right? If saying something to themselves like, you got this, you got this, you got this, and then that person goes out and smash it, like just destroys, that is the ultimate weapon, right? That's something that they can have with them without needing money, beliefs of others, affirmations of others. I mean, all that is extra. Like, one day you could be like, you got this, and you're eating an ice cream, and then people are cheering for you. That's awesome. But all you really needed was, you got this to yourself. That's kind of like what I would say about what I want to view the power of speeches, as opposed to all the other really cynical stuff in the world, unfortunately. But it's the whole picture, right? A powerful tool is also powerful in many other ways. So one can abuse a tool just as likely as its full applications. Eating ice cream from the tub, oof. I used to do that because I needed to gain some weight. I do be hitting pints and pints of, like, the tubs are kind of big. So in the United States, they charge extra. They got extra money from me. But if they reduce the volume, so like, I didn't want to like straight up eat a huge tub. So in order to regulate the exact amount that I need to gain weight, I like bought like two particular smaller versions of them. They were pints. And I was eating that quite a lot, just to gain a little bit over time, because I was terribly underweight. Ben and Jerry large dogs. I really do like this, like the less titanium version of Ben and Jerry's. I like Ben and Jerry's like softer texture. Occasionally I buy like Haagen-Dazs, and those things are like, they're like titanium. You gotta let them sit in room temperature for a little bit. They're like so densely packed. But Ben and Jerry's, yeah. Ben and Jerry's, delicious. I want to do that. A sign with free free hugs in your local. That's a thing. Yeah, Hagen's is, yeah, it's so dense, like it's hard to scoop, but it's like the consistency is quite nice. Taking candy from a baby is bad, but how about giving candy to a baby? Yeah, it's That's it. With great power comes great responsibility. 場所.
場所
Oh, what was the thing? The free hugs thing? That's a thing that happens a lot in conventions. Especially like hobby conventions. You know, everyone's there, everyone's saying like they're free hug signs. For real though. Maybe I'm not sure what it's like in conventions that happen in Ireland. Here, at least this coast, every year you have people like, or like handshakes or like elbow bumps or what have you. The idea of human concept of like interacting non-verbally is a thing that is very readily available at conventions, like high-fiving, throwing looks at each other. It's quite as well. Comic-Con, yeah, or GamersCon, yeah, exactly. And then cosplay, right? Cosplay is a outer expression, right? It's an outer expression. I think those who like to generalize any specific thing as not important maybe potentially underutilizing the potential to do all of the above. Like, yes, you know, when people, here's another generality, right? Expression is only skin deep. Or not, it's not only skin deep. Sorry. I don't know how. Like, I know the literal idiom I'm talking about, but I wanted to use a different type of terminology. Because, like, expression is not only skin deep, is saying that one's expression is deeper than what's on the outside, right? Because skin deep is not that deep. So like what's on the outside doesn't matter kind of thing. It's like a competition between, oh, it's what's the inside that matters, not what the outside. For me, it's like both. You could use both. You could express something on the outside and on the inside. You get 2 times the options, right? Not a competition, right? Are we getting this review done? Probably not. The review doesn't end. I only do as much as I can, which turned out to be not so much the last 2 days. It's okay though. Like we're only doing reviews for the next couple of days, and I guess it's my habit of when I'm doing reviews, I'm not particularly engaged.
会場
場所
I don't blame people for being bored on, you know, doing their Anki decks and stuff over time, because that's probably what this feels like most of the time.
場所場所
So now, like, whenever I'm reviewing this, it's gonna be attached to all this other stuff that we talk about. Which will be more, I'll more likely remember it anyways.
会場
場所
場所場所会場
Angel. Sorry, I don't think you guys, no, you can see that.
会場会場 場
Basho.
所
We'll get this one. Well, I'm not sure we'll get this one, like this section. Doubutsu.
動物
Doubutsu. What are you? What are you? Densetsu.
伝説
Legend. Densetsu.
旅
Ryokan.
館
Ryokan. Whoops. Wrong pitch accent. Wrong pitch. Ryokan. 会場.
会場
会場
We still got Chinese as well. Oh.
会場
One day I'll be on task.
場所
そう
一番
一番
会場
会場
9時間
9時間 Dang it. Setsu.
伝説
Densetsu. 24-hour stream. Oh, man.
場所
That would certainly solve a lot of problems, actually, if I had the stamina for it today.
場所
場所
Okay, 場所
伝説旅館
会場
会場
動物
動物
会場
会場
場
Oh, wait. I almost messed up.
会場
会場会場 Cause this 場 oh yeah
帽子
帽子
7時
7時
9日
9日 Oh, yesterday I had a field day with those.
場所
Okay. Just need more breaks? Yeah. I'm regulating the... So I'm also regulating how long I'm going to be doing this review, right? And then get ready for our big time. We'll have a cutoff at some point. We're filling it out.
運動
Undo,
種目
Shimoku.
種目
動物園
動物園
園
動物園
動
種目
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 Are you still doing your Spanish lessons? Huh? Huh? Don't even at me right now. You know, if you're atting me, I'm gonna at you out. Okay? Feelings mutual.
動物園
平日
平日種目
冷蔵庫
冷蔵庫日
日
本語
種目
You not filling everything in, or is it later? I am. Wait. I'm trying to fill everything in. Oh, Misa. If you're asking about like how I'm doing this stuff,
自動車
I'm trying to. どうしよう。自
自
動
動
車
車
The heck? Oh, delivery. Delivery. 配達物 No, 配達物配達物
配達物
Delivered items, yeah.
動物園
Out you all day, every day? Okay, well, you watch me. I'm gonna out you out all day, every day. You better watch it. Sooner or later, we're gonna be running 3 marathons in one day, and then we're gonna, you know, do overnight ultra marathons all of a sudden. It's like, how did we get here? It all started today.
何日間300
300. Forgot to change the euphonic change. 300. This is a dangerous slope, you know, that rivalry, that calling out thing. It's like, well, you didn't do this. It's like, well, you didn't do this. And it just keeps getting bigger and bigger until one day we're sitting in a spaceship ready for like you know, a rocket ready to take our like first public orbit around the planet. It's like, how did we get here? It's like, well, you know, it started with calling each other out about not doing their work. And then somehow in like 10 years, it spiraled and escalated to this. Like, oh, okay. Well, here's to the next 10 years.
種目
Shimaku,
自動車
Hidosha. I'm trying to hold you laughing, everyone's sleeping. You know exactly what I mean, though, right? The rivalry, it's like an anime. All of a sudden, it's like, well, guess what? I did one better. Now it's your turn. It's like, well, I'll do one better. Now it's your turn. You know what? I'm going to make sandwich with fish, pork, and chicken. Well, I'm going to make a sandwich with fish, pork, chicken, and turkey. How's that? And eventually we run out of proteins. Like, okay, now we're moving to something else. Good old rivalry. Good old rivalry. The sportsmanly like conduct rivalry. Jidosha. Wait. Jidosha.
種目
Moku.
動物園
Dobutsun.
毎日
Mainichi.
何日間
Nanichikan. And you can only laugh about it after a while. Like, how did we get here, man?
3年
Nannense. Do.
種目
Do your work. You do your work, Kozu. You do your work. I'm working on it. Yumoku. Fetus. I haven't crossed paths with that lady ever again since that one, but fetus was really funny.
楽しい
Man. Tanoshimi. Tanoshii. Simi.
休み楽しい
You know what's funny? I was thinking today I would complete like 3 backlogs of kanji and I didn't even get through one yet.
楽しい
Tanoshii.
嬉しい楽しみ
Ah, kanashi.
悲しい
I will sign up.
他の
Tanoshimi. Tanoshimi.
楽しい
Here's a little story about my friends and I. It's a very small story. Sometime in college we come to a realization that we are very much alike, and oftentimes we do this joke that we apply to all of us implicitly a lot of times. One of them recently, since college, when we type a note, right? That's exactly what I was gonna. The story is exactly what you. The feeling is exactly the same as what you're gonna say. Gonna be 2026 by the time you do it. Oftentimes my friends and I, we know each other well enough that it's like, oh yeah, look, you know what? We should really meet up for Christmas sometime, and then you know, let's just make plans. Ultimately, not to ever do it. You know, like yeah, let's just talk about what we would do that we're not going to do, and then we end up not doing it, and then we shared a moment. we literally did that this year. Like there was a talk like, oh yeah, you know what, we should hang out like maybe around Christmas time, right? And then it's like, yeah, that's a great idea, and then you start like brainstorming, and then ultimately like, yeah, we're not gonna do this, but it was nice to talk about the idea of doing it. All right, I'll see you guys next year. I'll talk to you randomly sometime.
楽しみ
It happens every time so far. Oh, although I did meet one of them. I did meet one of my close friends. Because he literally said, "Oh, there's this thing that's happening in like two weeks," and I'm like, "All right, let's do it. Plans are made. No backing out." but hear me out here. The 2 days before, he does the customary, there's no obligation. You don't have to come if you don't want to. I'm like, yep, that sounds exactly like what I would say. And like, let's go. In the car we go. Let's just do it. If we don't do it now, it's not going to happen.
楽しみ
And it's gonna be okay because neither of us want to pressure each other to ever doing anything. The classic hug and pull and push. Hug, pull, push. Engaging.
楽しい
Man.
音楽休み欲しい
I would say this is the classical example of incredibly self-aware people communicating in a very unempathetic, like, empathetic way, and that's the nature of it. Yeah, obligated to go. The way we circumvent most of these things is often my suggestion is whenever someone says, oh yeah, there's this concert 1 month out, and then my first question is, oh no, if we keep talking about this, it's not going to happen. So the first thing I ask is, oh, are they selling tickets yet? Because if I buy the ticket, yes, certainly you can cancel it and whatnot, but you're less and less likely to feel like you're like, okay. And there would be like an objective reason to honor the commitment, and that's kind of how my friends and I, or at least how I interact with my friends, where it's like, okay, well, it's setting up and scheduling now, and then we do it, right? We follow through when there is a commitment. However, when at every possible opportunity coming up to the event, there is constant reinforcement as to not be obligated or feel pressure to do so. And that's kind of the type of interaction I have with people that I know are inherently like me. We earnestly tried. It often feels like, from an outside perspective, in my opinion, other people looking in, is like we're trying so hard not to hang out. Like, if you're looking at it from the outside perspective, it's like, you guys are close friends. Why do you try at every possible opportunity not to hang out as friends? Like, the answer really is more like, we're more concerned about being a burden to each other, that our friendship is built on that ability of not being a burden to each other. It's weird. That's how usually the dynamics work. Show up at your door and say you're going if you're like it or not. Yeah, exactly. So here's the thing. How did we do that in college and whatnot? We had someone else do it. I kid you not. It was someone else. Like, outside my immediate close friends, another person made the decision. A decision maker made the decision. So whenever we're not like alone, as in the four of us, we would be more decisive because someone else is making the decision. And nowadays, two of them have significant others, and it works. It works. The four of us, I feel like rarely do we make decisions very quickly, if not at all. We make decisions intellectually, and then that's sometimes that exercise of making decisions is already sufficient. Weird, I know. We like the idea of going to concerts. We like the idea of getting together for Christmas, and that's sufficient to satisfy our togetherness. Imagine what it would be like to actually do those things. It would be pretty good. Like, it'd still be pretty great. Our threshold is not that high, though. We don't really need that much. Sometimes it's like, that's too much engagement. What? You mean actually show up to the same place? Wow, that's too much engagement. I think you're smothering me. Sorry, I was thinking of like a skit of like relations where like when you have a really really good friend, the moment you guys like handshakes, like all right, you're smuggling me, you're you're smothering me, we too much connection. Let's go. Well, I'll see you in another 6 years. It's fine, we'll catch up in another 6 years. And then you get together after 6 years and it took you 5 minutes to catch up. I'm like, okay, I guess we'll see each other in another 6 years. Getting an outsider to do it works out. Yeah, we had an outsider, or like we had a different personality in the group dynamics. At least almost nearly all the times that we were vigorously and frequently doing stuff, there was another person outside there's another personality in the whole dynamics. So it allows us to find purpose. Make yourself at home in theirs. Yeah.
種目
Working was that. Like having a job was that.
目
I do miss that.
目
Jobs kind of serve that reason too.
種目
Now helping people serve, I
Me-
guess.
目目種目種目種目
Moku. 誰
誰
7
陸上目
目
種目種目
大都市
大都市。ああ、大都市。
目
目
2分
2分。Come on!
種目
ああ。2番
2番
うん。2番。
め、
目。
め、
目。Sorry.
母
母。
目
目。
種目
選
手。
東。
東
Oh no, 東。Whoops.
種目目
Alright, let's focus.
4時間
時間。
毎年
毎年。
弁当
弁当。
目
目。ああ。
種
種目。目。パンパン。Okay.
重い
重い。And probably 種目。
種目種
重い。
重い、
種目
目。
種目
今日
今日。
重い安い
い。
種目
悪い。
悪
種目
重い
重い。
重
Okay. Now what?古い？
太い
太い。Oh, right. 太い。太い。
種目
あ、1日。
1日重い
軽い。
軽い
重い
種目100人
100人。あ、100人。
遅い
遅い。
重い
重い。あ、弱い。
弱い
種目、
Okay. Get this.
会社
会社。会場。
場所
場所。Oops.
会場
会場。会場。会社。寝室。
寝室
寝室。全然。ね全然。
全然会場会社会計
はい
はい
上
会場
会社、
社
会社会場
場広場ね昼間
昼間
昼間dang it 昼間昼間 let me think about it. Okay
会場会社
会社場所
場所100
100人パパーン
広場
広場
会場
場
場所
あ
会います
Oh wait
場所会場
広場背広
背広
背広 You're doing reviews? Right on
会計
会計 Whoops 会計はね場所
場所会場広
場広場会場
はい
広場、
広
広場会場
場
会場場所広場背広
背広
広島
島ね
種
種目ね
雨
雨
種目目鉛筆
机
種目
目種目
渋谷
渋谷種目目頭
孫
孫
Okay 卓球
卓球
卓
Sorry
球、
卓球 reminds me of a skit
卓球
that guy said it was so fun
卓球
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 Alright
卓球、
卓球
卓球卓球卓球
卓球 た
You. Oh. Dang it.
卓球
That was a typo.
卓球
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 Alright. Ne? Oh. Boku? Boku? Haitatsu.
配達
Koku?
航空
Boku.
航空
Boku. Haitatsu.
航空
Alright. I guess it's Koku. Koku.
配達
Haitatsu. Um. Sho? No. Shu?
一周
Ishu? I think there might be a pause there.
一周
Ishu? Issatsu.
一冊
Issatsu.
五冊
Gosai.
航空航空
Haitatsu.
航空
Koku.
航空
Koku. Ishu? Yeah. Ishu. um.
配達3階 5階
5階
配達一周
You finish all lessons with Bushu, but I still don't get the plus infinitive if either make it in ing word or the duh gets omitted. Interesting. I have no idea what that grammar point is.
9月
Nitai.
2台
Dai. Dang it. Nitai. Oh, hey, we got our bot. We got our daily bot. It took a while today, actually. It's impressive how many old accounts people have the bot services have claimed. How many old accounts? Like that is a pretty old account with like someone's avatar and crazy.
航空
Koku. Haitatsu.
配達
Nice boy. Nice boy. Good. Oh, nice bot. Good boy. Sit down. You know what I mean? Like, if you look at it, it's actually someone's old, like, it's obviously a retired, Twitch account that was abandoned by someone. It even has, like, a, like, kind of a, like a profile pic and all that stuff.
こう
And badges, yeah, as well.
空
Koku.
郵便
Ubeam. Ubeam. ね Ubeam.
7日
7日。
配達
配達。
航空
航空。
一周
卓球。卓球。
卓球
卓球。
卓球
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 卓球卓球
You think they make? You think they get anything for
Taku.
selling their account? Do they use like massive bot strings? Koku beam. Koku beam. Koku beam. Haitatsu. Haitatsu butsu. Ne? Haitatsu butsu.
配達物
航空便
航空便
配達物。地下鉄。
地下鉄配達物航空便。
店内。
店内
Oh no. 書き留め。ね書き留め。No. Not 書き留め。Yeah, 書き留め。
書き留め
航空便
航空便。
航空便
航空
航
航空
Ah! That was not. That's 配達物。
航配達物
配達物。仕事
仕事
仕事。
航空便。
自動車。
自動車
時々。
配達物
配達物。
配達物
This review is gonna be a disaster. I can barely cover that stuff, man.
配
配
達物
達物。
航空便。
自動車。自動車。
自動車
言葉。
言葉
変更。
変更
航空便
配達物
配達物。Ah!
配達物
Just kidding.
自転車買い物
買い物。
掃除
掃除。
航空
便。Oh. Oh, that was a massive typo.
配達
Okay. Oh, those things are not moving. Oh, we gotta switch gears. We leave like 2 to 3 hours for Chinese.
卓球
Ah! Wait.
卓球
卓球
So what we're gonna do for a review,
卓球
for a recall for
卓
tomorrow,
球
is probably do the construct
卓球
of this unit,
卓球
if I remember what it is.
卓球
I remember it deals with exercise, sports,
卓球
and then like metal, being good and bad at things. And then venues, where the sports venues happen. Right? Ooh. Whoa. Look at that. Whoa. Some days I were pretty good. I was pretty good. Today, it's all worth getting. It's worth getting people pumped, right? Okay, so we'll probably try to touch it on these and then go to this tomorrow. Yeah, for the review, we're probably gonna take the earliest or the latest unit and then travel backwards to see how far we go back. Eventually it's just gonna slip everything. I think we're gonna have to do some finagling. Like I'm gonna need at least a seed. We're gonna need a seed of what the construct is. Otherwise I'm not gonna be able to all of it. Wow, the weather chapter was straight up new kanji, huh? Yeah, today was a bit. There's so many exercises. All right, folks. That's gonna be the end of Japanese for today. And so looking forward to soon, right? Not soon, but maybe like 2026, the year where we just start breaking out the throwing languages here and there. There's so many people that also this is also the year of Spanish. So we're gonna sorry. I don't know how we're gonna negotiate this, because I did hear a lot of concerns where someone says like, oh yeah, but I have more engagement if I use this language, if I do this language and do this language. Like, what language should I stick to? And I haven't decided if the idea is that we keep snapping back and forth and whatnot. And I don't know if there's like some sort of taboo against that. So there's a lot of these questions come up all the time. They're like, oh, I'm language learning. Should I use the target language or not the target language, or like what? And then they're constantly worried about like engagement and whatnot. I think we're gonna defy that. I'm gonna gotta show a smorgasbord of promiscuous language interest. Maybe it will be our thing. You know? There's no taboo. There is, but there's not one here. Like, what I mean is, there is one that is implicit by other people who treat language learning like monolingual environments, largely due to the idea that learning language is also a monolingual environment that they like. So to them, it's not necessarily a taboo, but it's the way they speak makes it lesser, right? Make it lesser. And I like to, and it would be like an open challenge, right? Which I'm not suggesting that we're doing defiant, as in like being an open challenge to some sort of dogma regarding language learning and whatnot. However, I gotta find out my blend. We gotta figure out what our coffee blend is gonna be like, you know? It's kind of one of those things like, do you like your coffee with milk and sugar? My point, they the minority of the minority. They are the majority of the minority. We are the minority of the minority. Promiscuous groups are more likely to be the minority of the minority. So like, the way I go about things is not very attractive to the majority of the minority. Basically, people who come by and say, whoa, look, yo, you're busy learning Japanese. Why are you speaking in English? That's the majority of the minority opinion. What is the most efficacious way to learn a target language? Only participate in that target language with everything. So that's kind of what we're referring to. So for now, we'll see. If I started speaking entirely in broken Japanese, and as long as I keep speaking in Japanese during my Japanese lessons, actually a lot more people of that minority will resonate with that, right? Because the concept, or the logical concept, is that the more you use the language, the more comfortable you become. And while I agree with that, it's not my most consistent way of interacting with target language. My target language and sentiments are developed by the connection between all the languages. Segregation is something, certainly. I like my English shows with Japanese subtitles, and my English with English subtitles, and my Japanese shows with English subtitles. Every once in a while, I'm fairly promiscuous. Not for everyone. Not for everyone. Concordance is the logical. It's only logical. Sorry, I'm kind of doing a Star Trek thing. Okay, so for now, this is us. If you're gonna watch this later, arigatou gozaimasu, right? For the Japanese enthusiasts out there, and maybe the occasional interesting Japanese party about English, right? The occasional Japanese English learner. Thank you. And until next time, mata ne, ja ne, right? I'm gonna get up, walk around, get some glucose. Water doesn't seem to cut it anymore. Yeah, I'll be back for some Chinese reviewing. Might go a little bit more hardcore. Okay. Thank you.